Alrighty, so it looks like Benedict Cumberbatch just did a big whoopsies. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Thus is the life of a weekly podcast where one week you might have breaking news that has all sorts of ramifications for all sorts of different things in, the MCU in this case. And then the next week, the actor comes right back and he's like, just kidding. Just kidding. So to recap, before we get to this quote, it's a very, very short quote here. And I guess there's some more to speculate about it, but, before we get there, just to recap, last week we talked about the fact that Benedict Cumberbatch came out and he was like, hey, I know that they retooled Avengers 5, which is going to be Avengers Kang Dynasty, and it's now Avengers Secret Wars, and this was in a big piece, mind you. So this was in a big, long interview piece where probably this was done a while ago, and he was just kind of talking off the cuff, and he even says at one point, am I spoiling anything? Then F it, he says F, not, he says the actual word, but anyways, to keep this a family-friendly channel. And he's like, yeah, I whatever, I'm just going to say what I want to say. And I'm not in Avengers 5 because the role that I had was cut. And so then we were like, okay, so then let's talk about, let's speculate, let's think about what that means. And I mean, what I was saying was, so that probably means that, he's on some kind of adventure, and then maybe Doctor Strange will happen before Avengers Secret Wars, but it makes sense, right? And, the story needs to serve the story. Like, if Benedict Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange doesn't fit in Avengers Doomsday, no problem, the story needs to fit the story. But then, come this week, we have another quote here from Benedict Cumberbatch. It is a very short one, and this is what he has to say. Quote, "I got that wrong. I am in the next one. Don't ever believe anything I say." Okay, so there you go. Benedict Cumberbatch and Doctor Strange is in Avengers Doomsday. Now, what I'm going to take from this whole entire saga, because I still think there are a couple interesting things to take away from all of this, is number one, I think that while he probably is now in Doomsday, right? And, he says, don't believe anything I say. I don't know what to believe anymore. Is he in Doomsday? Is he not in Doomsday? I'm going to assume he is now, right? And I'm going to assume what happened was basically the interview came out, and this is why, again, I don't think, the actors all make fun of the fact that, Marvel has these, people who are always watching, and if you slip up in an interview, they're going to tranquilize you, and then they're going to, reprimand you, and you're going to get fired from that. It's all just sort of silly and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, they don't want the actors spoiling things like Mark Ruffalo, basically spoiling the entire end of Infinity War. Did he get in trouble for that? Probably not. Probably not, right? They just don't want it to happen, and they're going to be strict about it if they can. But they're not going to actually, punish you. But it's important, right, to have publicists and to have, agents and to have people to go to. And for Benedict Cumberbatch to go to people like Kevin Feige and be like, hey, is this okay for me to say? And, just based on the nonchalant manner in which that previous interview, the one we talked about last week, was kind of said, where he was like, yeah, I don't care. I'm just going to say things. Is that a spoiler? Whatever. I have a feeling that he didn't clear a lot of what he was going to say with his publicist or his agent, right? Because I think if he did, I would assume that those people were like, let's just check with Kevin Feige. Let's just check with the Marvel creative team and see, is this true? Can we say this? Because, Benedict Cumberbatch is trustworthy. I don't think he was actually going to ever outright in an interview be like, yeah, so, the original plan for Kang Dynasty was this, and then my role in Secret Wars is this. He was never going to do that. He's just not that kind of person. But, to just casually be like, yeah, I'm not in Avengers 5 anymore. I'm pretty sure if he said that in that interview, it wasn't cleared because it wasn't approved by Kevin Feige to say, because if he is, in fact, in Avengers 5, well, that would never have gotten published. So I think that's what happened. That interview came out. He didn't clear it with Kevin Feige or Kevin Feige's team. And then Kevin Feige's team probably called Benedict Cumberbatch as soon as the interview came out with all the headlines and was like, hey, you need to correct this because you are in the next one. So that's what I think happened. But the implication from that is that I think Benedict Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange will have a very small role in Avengers Doomsday. Because if Benedict Cumberbatch, and look, Doctor Strange is a very prevalent, MCU character. He's one of the bigger heroes. And I still believe, by the way, when he says that he has a big role to play in Secret Wars, I still believe that. I think that, if he was the star, like the lead Avenger, because I very well believe he could be the lead Avenger in Secret Wars, right? He is that big of a character in the MCU now, without Iron Man, without Captain America. I think, though, if he was the lead character, lead Avenger, one of the lead characters in Doomsday, he would have definitely known that by now. I mean, they're ramping up the film in probably just a couple months, a few months, right? And if he just has to film for 1 week, that's fine. He can do it. Totally can do it. But if he is, there for like 8 weeks, 10 weeks, he would definitely know that. So what I take from this is that Kevin Feige probably called him and he was like, hey, no, the Russos did write you into the script, or McFeely wrote you into the script, right? And I think he was like, oh, okay, got to clarify that. So I think that's what that means. I think he does have a role to play in Doomsday. I think it will probably be very short, maybe maybe he's imprisoned in the movie, and part of the plot is to free him, and so he only has to film for like a week, and then he gets freed at the end, and then at the end, Doctor Doom rules and whatever, and then all that kind of stuff happens. Who knows, right? That could be a possibility, but I think that is all that means. So Benedict Cumberbatch corrects his statement from before. He is, in some capacity, going to be in Doomsday. What do you make of this, guys? What do you think? And also, what do you think this means for Doctor Strange 3? Do you still think it's going to come out? A lot of you guys were saying between Doomsday and Secret Wars, maybe. I mean, it would be a very tight window to fit that in, but, it's possible. Let me know in the comments what you think about this in the comments down below.